let's say I can, oh.
Oops.
Oops.
Um, if, I can do maybe a 15-second breath roundabout. And when I try to get it longer, that's when the trouble starts. When I push on either the inhale or the exhale.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of practicing enough to allow it to happen more and more.
Yep.
But the pushing seems to have exactly the opposite effect. I get tight and I can't take in as much or let out as much. So
Right.
Yep. Yep. So obviously, this is something to keep working on.
yeah, yeah.
You're all making progress. Breathing is just slow. It's not a quick development. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure any of this is quick development.
No, last week when we were talking about this, I remembered, I think it might have been a National Geographic piece I saw about kids diving, but people learning to dive in Polynesia, like the indigenous people of Polynesia, and the kids start by going down, and they can hold their breath for 8 minutes, by the time they're 6 or 7, because that's kind of what they do and how they started. And yeah.
Yep. And they started young.
They start very young. Right. Right. And there's a purpose there because they want to hold their breath to get down to certain things in the ocean floor at a certain depth. And, it all makes sense. Right. But it's much more of an organic process than our experiences.
Indeed. We're now trying to correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, well, I'll give you something else to think about, as if you didn't have enough already. So we're going to look at a basic principle of heaven and earth in the Gong, but God goes much more deeply into it and how it relates to the range of motion that are necessary to make it fully functional. Now, when you breathe, your breathing should open up your body from the inside. You can breathe, and when you exhale or inhale, it won't matter which. On the second half of your breath cycle, it should cause everything in your body to shrink a bit like a balloon. As you blow into it, it inflates, and then as the air comes out, the balloon deflates. So breathing can push or pull energy depending upon whether it's opening or closing. You can cause it to push or pull blood through your veins and arteries. You can use it to move every fluid in your body. When you get just the right edge of how the internal pressure in your body or your breathing mechanism work. It all depends on what part of it you are using. It can move your limbs, it can move your interstitial fluid. So you can use breathing to open and close your joints, because understand something, breathing is a primary body mechanism. So what is the biggest thing your breathing does from a Taoist point of view? It is one big opening and closing. Everything gets bigger and everything gets smaller, bigger and smaller. But the opening and closing exercise can be linked to every other system in your body. If you can make the link, And we're going to look at that a little bit right now. Now, what you have to do is different than most other breathing methods. The other methods are about taking in air and sending out air, or taking in air and holding it. So stay seated, don't stand up for once. just let your arms rest on your thighs with the palms up, and make sure that you bring your elbows far enough forward that you keep your armpits open. And we're going to think about, of course, ordinary breathing. So in the ordinary breathing, your stomach gets bigger as you inhale, and that is expansion and opening. And when you exhale, what does your breathing do? It gets smaller. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, I want you to inhale, and from the sense of opening your belly, get the blood to start flowing down the inside of your arms to your fingertips. So you're connecting your breathing to the movement of your blood. When you exhale, pull the blood back up your arm. Blood is always going away from your heart and into your heart. And there are breathing techniques where you can make both the opening and closing happen simultaneously, but the natural way breathing happens in the body is that it does one, then it does the other. Now I want you to get your body to fill up from the air, but it's not just fill up. I want you to shrink it in and bring it back to where it came from. So if it came from your elbow to your fingertips, make it go from your fingertips through your elbows into your upper arms. So now I'd like you to bring your hands up in front of you with the palms facing out. And I want you to do this. I want you to inhale from your fingers down your forearms and let it get smaller. And exhale, like in movement number 3. But use the breath going out of your belly to start moving through your hands to open your arms out. You're trying to actually get the breath to move your arms. You're using the inhale and exhale to cause your arms to bend and stretch, to retract and extend. And as you inhale, your arms bend in, and as you exhale, they extend out. And I want you to somehow get your breath to be linked to this movement, so that this movement with your body is coming from your breath. And I want you to just keep doing this. If it's absolutely necessary, you can take a brief break to rest a sore muscle, but then continue. And I'm going to just talk about a few other things that may be useful. Now, people have pain. And the basic reason you get pain is that in some way, shape, manner, or form, the chi, the energy of your body, is not expressing itself through that area. There's a well-known phrase in Chinese medicine, quote, when you have pain or you have diminished function, your chi doesn't go through that place in some way or another. Now, when chi goes through a place in your body smoothly, you don't have pain. And that is pretty much what it comes down to. This is not an absolute statement, but most of the time it holds. Now, when you have a vertebra that's pressing on your spinal cord nerve, this is not going through, the chi is not going through that spot in your body, and you have pain. And don't forget all the physiological things that accompany it. Now, when we study Taoist meditation, one of the things we work on is dissolving all kinds of pain. But now I'm talking about physical pain, but it's no different with any other kind of pain. And if anybody here has pain anywhere between your fingertips and your elbow, I want you to do something. Not only do you have to get your breath to extend your arm and bring it back, but you want to get your breath to smoothly move through the pain spot. And if you make it move through the pain spot on the way out and on the way in, don't be surprised if the pain goes away. Now, there are a lot of reasons why your whole body could be in pain. All kinds of diseases will do it, flus will do it. Then clearly your breath has to go to every part of your body. So the basic method of sensitive peripheral breathing in Taoism is actually designed to get the breath to go through every part of your body. It's devised to go from your extremities to your lower dantian. But the purpose of the breath moving through, whenever you hit a spot with pain, you can relax the feeling of that movement of the breath. If you can, relax it enough. And if you do, then you slowly go through that spot very gently, and you open it up. But the biggest thing you're trying to get right now is not about your pain, although you can do it, that would be good. Somehow you're getting your breath to tell your arms to move. And this is different It's not that you're moving your arms and you're trying to get your breath to coordinate with that. That's an earlier stage. You're trying to get your breathing to actually be the signal that tells your arms to move. Now, I'm not terribly happy with the word ego, because in China, the word ego doesn't mean what it means in the West or what it means in India. The term ego in India is not about you having an agenda, you having fixated or having a point of view that seems to squeeze other people out, which is what ego means in the West. In India, if you have an ego, it's simply saying you're not enlightened and you're separated from the enlightened state in some way. That's what the ego is in India. In China, it's not so different. The ego is what causes separation rather than everything is joined together. But it's not what it necessarily means in the West. There, an ego just means you have a point of view. And it actually may not be that you have a point of view, but that another person feels as though it's pushing their point of view to the side, and they don't like that. And therefore you have an ego. And we have many, many people who do that in all sorts of ways. But here we're looking at your breath, which somehow is going to be that which tells your body to move. And when you do that, there's a very funny thing that happens. If anybody has a sense of, I am doing this, an honest sense, not just as a convenience of language, but as a reality. From the Eastern point of view of meditation and spirituality, your ego is at work. You are strengthening and reinforcing your ego. But if you just have the sense of, my breath is moving me, one thing that's going to happen is that your sense of what you are will not be the same thing as your breath. Who you are is not your hair or your toenails. There's something a lot bigger inside you that makes you think that's what you are. So in one sense, your ego can simply just take a rest. And everybody can use having their ego take a rest, because an ego is the source of a huge amount of stress, or it's what causes a huge amount of stressful situations that are damaging to you. It is the situation, it isn't the situation that is damaging. It is more how you take it in your ego. And your ego makes sure you take it in a way that is damaging to you. Because you're fighting against what you think you are and what you want and whatever is going on in the world. Most of which most people know there is not a lot they can do about. So now, I want you to stay sitting down, but do the arm movement of movement 3. Because it's easy. It begins to get a little bit harder when you stand. So do this with just the hand and arm movements of 3. Let your hands come in and go out. And how do you get it so that your belly filling up, your breathing opening is causing your arms to open up? That's where it's coming from. Your arms are moving, but it's not the experience you get sometimes when it just feels like your arms are going on their own and it's coming from Mars. What this does is that if you can get the breath to do this, your mind can relax a lot. So there are two things you can't stop doing: breathing and pushing blood. And you could say all the other fluids as well. But breathing is an easier thing to work with than blood. So feel your breathing causing the movement of your arms. Okay. So now I want you to stand up and do the full movement 3. And we're doing this for principally one reason only, because your hands coming in and your hands going out is the clearest way of linking your breath, because the motion of your hands is basically mimicking your breath. Don't sink down too low, because that can cause you to focus your attention on your back and not on what you're doing with your arms. The first stage, you just focus on breathing smoothly while you do the movements. And once you can breathe smoothly and your breathing is not causing your emotions to release their inner volcanoes, you can start looking very gently and very softly at how does the breath become the means through which your arms extend and bend back. You might ask, and it would be a good question, if my arms are bending and straightening with my breath, do I want the same thing to be happening with my legs? And the answer is yes, but right now, not now, not yet. Focus on the arms. And just do it seated, Bill.
Yeah.
Sitting.
Yeah, the turning on my knee.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Until you can do this smoothly with your arms, don't try it with your legs, because it's harder to pull off. We live in an arm culture, not a leg culture. Most people don't open doors with their feet as a habit. And as a matter of fact, that is done in other places. And most people don't pick up things with their feet and do whatever with them. You know, if you want to start getting in greater contact with your legs, a little game you can play is just to take a pen or a pencil or a stick and write in sand with your feet.
Yeah.
We can write with our hands because we are used to doing that, but we're not used to using our feet. It's just a little tip. There's certainly no test here. Let your movement be of a size that allows you to keep the breathing and the extending and bending of your arms together. And if you find that at some point, in some part of the movement, you stop for a second or you freeze, what tells you is that, oh, I'm making the movement too big, because you don't have the coordination to get it together. The reason we start practicing this principle with movement 3 is because the movements of your arms are relatively small. If you think about it, it's very obvious that in all the other movements, your arms are going to be in motion a lot longer, and it's going to be a little bit trickier to get your breathing coordinated. And you begin to work on all the movements. You want to make your movements a little smaller so you can do the opening and closing with your breath and your arms. So take a break and relax. Sit down for a minute. And tell me what you could feel or didn't feel, or what worked and what didn't work.
Well, I would say that, sorry, Joy.
No, go ahead, go ahead. Took me a while to
Like
open
my
my
voice
mouth.
was coming out of your mouth.
Go ahead, Bill.
I didn't have too much trouble coordinating the breathing with the arm motions. I don't know to what extent the arm motions were driven by the breath and as opposed to with muscles. Yeah. I was trying to concentrate on that and letting the breath do it, but I'm sure the muscles took over for part of it. The other thing I noticed is that I had sensations, whether that was chi moving down my forearms and hands or blood or something entirely different, but I did have a fairly steady sensation in the forearm. I could not sense much at all in the upper arm. And through most of what we've been doing, I really had to work hard to keep the shoulders open. And once I got them open, that certainly helped the whole process.
Good awareness.
Hmm?
That's a good awareness that about the shoulders. And as with as with all things where we're trying to open up our awareness and feel things that culturally we haven't been led to feel when we were young, feeling the breath causing movement is that one step beyond coordinating it. And I'm sure that all four of you can coordinate your movement with your breath. You've all been practicing long enough to be able to do that. But we have to get one step further and indeed beginning to be able to feel the difference between moving your blood and moving your chi is also an interesting step to work on.
Yeah.
I felt it more powerfully in the bottom half as I was sinking than in the top. It took a little bit more effort. And I think part of that is that I just feel that I am more smoothly moving in the bottom and I am more maybe muscularly trying at the top to, it feels very off. It feels like a bizarre oval of some level. But I think that focusing on the breathing helped me. It was both a challenge and an awareness of what I need to correct. And I did feel that I was, I could definitely feel the breath moving. Yeah, the arms.
Good.
For not the whole oval, but most of it. I also tried changing, besides, going back and forth to the different positions, I tried changing my breath too at one point. When I took a break, I went back to where I inhale, where I exhale. That was interesting to kind of feel that difference.
And it can work both ways.
Yes, we've talked about that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, because it is the opposite of what I usually do, exhaling as you stretch out that we're doing today is the reverse of what I would typically have done. But I think one thing I did right towards the end was thinking more about, expanding all the joints and expanding skeletally and focusing on the, what we do with the shoulder blades as you stretch out to separate.
Yep.
It's and that seemed to help get in touch. Thinking about that with the breath seemed to help. So I look forward to practicing and thinking about that more. I just did that more at the end, that awareness at the end of our rotation. And I guess that'd be my main different observation or additional observation.
Good. Adam?
Um, I didn't find it, I guess, too difficult to sync the breath and the movement. I think finding how the breath causes the movement versus just being coordinated, like you say, was a little more challenging. It kind of came and went. I found getting back to it when it went really, for me I had to like kind of mentally step back and just observe what was going on rather than try and do anything. And that seemed to kind of jumpstart the system and get the breath moving the arms again, instead of just doing the two at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, you're all experiencing very normal things.
Right.
I'm sorry to say. And what I really like is I hear all of you saying that there is a sense of anticipation to work on this.
Oh, yes.
And that's great,
Yeah.
because this is something that can be very, very useful.
Hmm.
So what I'd like you to do is to go do a flow from the beginning through 6, and endeavor to do the best you can with this, and just do 10 of each one.
Okay.
And one of the things that I would say is to really be cognizant of the size of your movements. You may need to make everything smaller for a while in order to coordinate with the breath, to get the breath to actually cause the movement. And then over time, they can expand back to their normal size.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So stand and take a moment, be really aware of your alignments. Do your best to breathe with the whole body. And let it become smooth and as slow as is reasonable for you. Extend your mind through your body. That can be a help too. Whenever you're ready, you can begin, gods. Movement 1, you can think about not letting your hands go so high. The higher they go, you have more bending and stretching. Good. So did that raise any questions?
I don't know about questions. It's just it's much harder with bigger movements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, three
Yeah.
felt almost like a relief when I got there. It was much easier. I don't know if it was just partially because we were working on it already, but it felt like it's easier to keep the breath moving the arms when it's a smaller arm movement.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's why I was encouraging you to make all the others smaller to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
So
It- it-
you might really
was-
play with that because it really does make it a little easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it got a lot easier. I felt like I was a little bit on a racehorse part of the time. And then I got to 5 and everything just seemed to slow down and coordinate and kick in and felt it felt good in a
Good,
yeah.
great.
Yeah, I find that sometimes, you know, when we're concentrating on one thing, we lose other things, but I didn't feel that way this time. I felt like I was building, I felt like there was a good foundation, that this was building on that, and that, yes, there's some more awareness, that it kind of makes me more aware of things I need to keep working on, but it felt like it kind of really came together.
Oh, good. Excellent. Anything for you, Bill?
Well, I did feel, as Joan just said, you know, spots here and there. I was struggling with my knee, obviously. But it's good to feel when it comes together.
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah.
Good. So everybody feel you know what you want to try to practice?
We understand our goals, even if we haven't gotten
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Good, good. Well, great. That seems to me that actually worked quite well.
Yes.
So have fun, practice, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Sounds
Great.
good. Thanks, David.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
David.
Ta-da.
Last two.
Last two. Good. Any additional questions for you two?
I guess maybe just a clarifying question.
Sure.
So when we're talking about the breath causing the movement in the arms, I guess I don't really know how to phrase this question. We're really looking at the breath driving the blood and the chi to cause that movement. Almost, I guess the image in my head is almost like how insects move their limbs, where they don't have muscles. It's like hydraulic pressure that they're pushing through the limb.
Mhm.
Is that basically what we're doing? The diaphragm is driving that kind of hydraulic pressure of blood and stuff.
That's reasonable.
Okay.
I like that response, David. That's reasonable. Yeah, okay.
I think one thing I would say is to not necessarily try to focus on this in the form.
Okay.
Stick with it in God's
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
and let it arrive at fruition in God's, and then at some point play with it in the form.
Okay. Yeah.
You got enough going on in the form, I think. And I think at this point, I think it would just be confusing in the form.
Yeah. Agreed.
Too much at this point.
Mm.
So speaking of the woo style, what's happening in your woo style, if anything?
I'm very pleased with myself that I practiced it several times this week.
All right.
Turns, which is kind of a record for me this, since my knee went. Although today I have a back. Yesterday I realized I was getting headaches because I need to go to the chiropractor. So my back is hurting and my upper spine feels tight. I think in terms of particularly maybe so looking at the C curve, I was really trying to look at what you had asked last week, which is, where are there questions? And I think I'm developing clarity. I think the one posture I had trouble with was cloud hands. I'm not sure why. The first time I did it, even before this week, I was like, or the first time I'd done it in a while, I was like, how do you get into this? You just forget something. We all do that. I think remember anything. But in terms of particularly the C curve and then back up and out, I think I have it, but that's probably the one that if we want to refresh one posture, that would help me.
Sure. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
A
little puzzled to me why, but yeah.
No, that's interesting to me because it's not a posture that I would have thought would be an issue.
I know, me neither. That's what kind of like threw me a little. I don't know. Is that egotistical self-doubt? I don't know. Get back to the beginning of class. What is that?
Egotistical self-doubt. Oh dear. So we've gone into
Down and under.
down and yeah, that's the name of that posture.
That's it.
Down and under, and you have straightened at this point.
Yeah.
So obviously you're forming the C curve and then straightening. And then you're going to go back into the C curve as you condense.
Yeah.
And then straighten. And back into the C curve. And it's pretty subtle because you've got a lot of other movement going on.
Right.
But the straightening comes on both sides as you go out,
Okay.
come back in to bend, you go out, straightening. Yeah,
Yep. Okay.
it's really, that one's,
I mean, that makes sense, but it was somehow I was, trying to do one, then what? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind what I was trying to do. Let's not go there.
I won't mind.
Yeah. Let's.
Other spots?
No, nothing for me, David. I didn't have much practice with the form this week.
You've been busy this week.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there was a death in the family over the weekend.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, thank you. No, that kind of,
Frozen.
yeah, threw everything through a loop. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
pieces are just starting to fall back in place. So,
Ah,
but that's life.
It's life and life and death. Yeah.
Case
A
not.
lot of that lately. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and it takes your time and it takes you, zaps your energy, your emotional state. I mean, it affects all of it, our whole being, right?
yeah,
absolutely.
and the difficult thing is, everything just keeps going on, right?
Yeah,
Right. At the same time, life goes on, right?
You're like, well, I still need to get my butt to the grocery store because there's no food. Like,
Right. Little things like that.
yeah, seem almost like you're not giving it the presence and honor it deserves, but you gotta kind of keep going. So
yeah.
but the little that I have been doing has felt much better. I think was it last week or 2 weeks ago where we were focusing on the energy kind of extending from the inside of the spine with the C curve. That seemed to have really energized the movements in the form.
Cool.
So when I work on the C curve with the postures, it seems to really, I don't know, give it that zing.
Good. Are you feeling movement of the energy in the legs too?
I'm beginning to feel it more.
Uh-huh.
It's not consistent, but it's definitely becoming more part of the practice.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So
Great.
Mhm.
As the comment today, we live in an arm culture. It's true.
yeah,
We're very upper body focused.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
making that transference to the lower body and really getting our awareness into moving the energy through the lower body is really important and not easy for us.
hmm
Yeah.
No, and I think as you were saying that, I was thinking of other cultures, like I've spent some time in India, and how they use their lower body in many different ways, even to the point of, relaxation is squatting,
Yeah.
right? Not sitting on a chair, but literally bending your knees and squatting down, right? How people work physically is different, how people clean, people are not wearing shoes oftentimes so that their feet become more, like their fingers, maybe it's in different kinds of ways. Yeah. Interesting.
I saw that in China too.
I bet. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Actually, the first day I was there, I immediately got out on the street, and you see people squatting and playing cards or mahjong or whatever, and they stay squatted for hours.
Hours. Yeah. Right.
Without the legs going to sleep.
I know. I saw a group of women building they were actually building like a sidewalk on a road, and they did it all kind of squatting.
Yeah.
For hours. And they had the babies wrapped in the saris on their back, and there they go.
Yeah.
And that's why also when I was in childbirth class, a lot of women give birth squatting, but they've been squatting their whole lives. They're not like learning it in these last few months before birth, right? So even birthing is a very different process.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you realize that. I certainly going to China and seeing how
Seeing it, being around it for weeks
and discovering toilets that are on the ground and not raised.
Squat.
That was a new experience for me.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very different cultural thing, right?
Yep. So I think the opening and closing is the thing to keep working on.
Good.
Yep.
That's really until that becomes really, really comfortable.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I don't think I really have anything else at the moment.
No, I think this is all helpful. You know, and what was the word you said? Anticipatory. I think we're anticipatory. You know, it's like, I think that you've given us enough here in these last, particularly, well, today, that everybody's like, oh, excited to really practice that. Right? I think that draws me more to the practice when I'm like, have a little challenge. Uh-oh, you know, I noticed something during class that really I need to work on.
Yeah.
And when we have time to do that, then that, yeah, draws us to that feeling of,
Absolutely.
yeah, doing it better.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you guys.
Oh, David, I never sent, I owe you money, don't I? I forgot totally.
Oh,
Crazed last weekend. Okay. I put a
all
check-
right.
I'll get you money. I'll get you money.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just thought of it. Okay.
It's okay.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Very good.
I trust you, Joanne.
Yeah. I won't stiff you, but at the same time, I shouldn't be weeks late. I just just got to put it in the minutes.
I know.
Okay.
You're busy. You're both
I'm
busy.
busy, but you need money too, you know? To get those groceries Adam was talking about, you know? It helps. Put it all together. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Nice.
much. Good class. Yeah.
Have a good week.
You
you
too.
too.
Take care.